All right, man. Well, good to see you.
You too.
You
Again.
doing all right?
I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah, pretty well.
Maybe after this conversation, we'll be doing as well, but we'll see.
We'll see. I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine. So we hitting Angelic Conversation?
Yeah, so we decided to talk about angels here, and then as we were researching it, I'm speaking for myself. I was like, what did we get ourselves into here? So, if you are listening and we screw something up on the angels, don't kill us here.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to keep mine kind of surface level.
Oh, same.
Because this can get in a sticky situation pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, and also, like, we can do this too, but I said, like, all right, so from a biblical perspective, I did pretty high surface level, like,
Yeah.
What was the nature and purpose best I understand?
Yeah.
The types that I understand of angels, because I think there's a few there, and then maybe some of the things that we think they do, like that I perceive. So once again, I didn't do a lot. I didn't dig in. I didn't read commentaries. I didn't do any of that. I just kind of this is Adam's perception to an extent. Now I'm going to say, I've got some verses that I will tie these perceptions to. But then I think we could talk about, like, with the world, kind of like how they're depicted.
It's not how they actually look in the Bible.
Well, yeah, even just
at some point,
even look, or but it's even like like what they do, and how they get their wings and stuff. Stuff like that.
How they get their wings.
I'm just saying, like, It's a Wonderful Life. We're in the Christmas season.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. You just think of, like, the way
all right,
angels are. So, kick it off, man.
So we pick a topic. We text back and forth, pick a topic, and then we both kind of just research that topic. We don't go over this together at all, any of our stuff. So this is just hot mic live here. So we're going to see how it goes. But I've had people ask me some questions about angels recently, some coworkers and things like that, and they're not real versed in biblical knowledge. So I was like, man, I need to start getting prepared a little bit more. So number one, I have angels were created by God. So a lot of people think angels were just there with God, but that's not true. They were created by God. It's very clear that God created everything in the heavens and the earth. And of course, they had been created and they had fallen before Adam and Eve in the garden. A lot of people don't even put those two things together. So I told you I'm taking it very surface level. The Bible isn't real clear on when the angels were created, but a lot of people were saying in the 4th, 5th, 6th day, that area. So Genesis 2, it says, thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. That's just a verse that I came up with that proves that God did create them. It doesn't say how many he created, or I couldn't find how many were created. I know there's a bunch, and we'll get into that in more detail in a minute too. Yeah,
I didn't even think to look to when, but like even in Colossians it says, hang on, I've got it here somewhere.
Yeah.
1:16 I think is the oh shoot, man. I can't find it.
All right, well, you're looking
Colossians
for that.
1:16. I know it says that they were created by God. So, but I didn't even think about the time frame. I guess in my head, I kind of always just assumed they were maybe around with him. Like he obviously created them. I didn't think about like the creation story about Earth and us and them being. Because obviously the fall of of Satan happened before our fall. So it's good thoughts though. Good thoughts.
I've also had this question asked me by several people that consider themselves Christians. They always say, hey, do we become angels when we die? I'm like, no, we don't. Like, I don't. People that go to church and have been going to church for years and years and years, they think that we become angels, and that's not what we're two separate creations from God.
Yep. Distinct.
Yeah.
Distinct from humans.
Right. And that gets into the next one too. How are angels and humans different? We're different creations, just like God created humans, animals, and the trees, the fish, everything, right? Angels are like I don't know, spiritual being, kind of like, that's kind of what I was reading. They can take human form, I believe. I think when they came and visited Mary and Joseph and everything, they came in human form. I'm not for sure if that's what they look like all the time. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. Because we're going to get into what they actually are described, how they look in the Bible.
Yeah.
And they don't look like you and me.
No.
some of that stuff's kind of scary, but we'll get into that in a second.
Yep.
Are angels male or female? Did you do any research on this?
Nope.
So the Hebrew and Greek translation always puts them in a masculine form, and that's also like you have Michael in the Bible and you have Gabriel in the Bible. So that's where they're kind of leaning toward their more of the male side.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying I don't know if there's any female angels or not. I don't know the answer to that, but
yeah. I just it's the same God, right? It's masculine.
Correct.
It just angels seem to always be depicted in that manner too.
Jesus, Holy Spirit, we always do it in a
masculine. Yeah.
Some of the angels that are mentioned in the Bible are Gabriel. He's the messenger angel that's talked about in the Bible. He appears in the Old and New Testament. Daniel, and I have some more stories we can go through in a little bit too. Daniel, and then of course he's the one that spoke to Mary and Joseph and the
and he announced the resurrection too, right? I believe.
Maybe I didn't look up every story of angels in the Bible.
Well, because really, like it's Michael.
Like you're talking about he's the one at the grave.
Mm-hmm. Probably. Yeah.
When the women went to the grave.
So like it's like to your point, like it's kind of their what are angels kind of thing, right? And it seems like messengers for sure, right? Mm-hmm. So we know that biblically speaking, and I think Gabriel was the one that appeared to Joseph and Mary.
Yes,
and then also announced his resurrection.
Yep.
So,
yeah, he's probably the most famous, by name in the Bible. And then you also have Michael.
Yeah,
and he is considered an archangel.
Yeah, I think is Gabriel
chief.
Not?
There's debate on that because he's not actually labeled one in the Bible.
Okay, that's fair.
That's what I could find.
I kind of assumed they were kind of like the same. I don't know why.
Well, one's a messenger, and then Michael was considered like fighter, but he's the one like in the book of Jude. He's the one that fights the devil for Moses' body.
Yeah,
and I couldn't find it. I thought he had a sword of fire or like on fire, but I couldn't find that in the Bible, so I don't remember where I heard that. But I didn't have a whole time.
Sounds cool though,
right? Because there are angels that have that. And we'll get into that when we're in the Garden of Eden and guarding the entrance to Eden,
which is another thing they do, right?
Right,
is they're messengers, and then
they just
they protect and guide, right?
Yep.
So yeah.
So I also put Lucifer down here. I didn't really find a verse where it said Lucifer in the Bible, so I feel like I should know that answer, but I just know that he's the fallen angel that God kicked out.
Mm-hmm.
According to Revelations 12:4, a third of the angels fell with him. Also in Luke 10:18, Jesus said that he saw Satan fall like lightning. So that's just putting it all together there at the beginning. Jesus was always there because people question that too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to read this. Revelations 12:7. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, which the dragon is Satan, and the dragon and his angels fought back. So that's saying Lucifer had a bunch of people following him, right? Or Satan. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, the ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who led the whole world astray. He was hurled into the earth, and his angels went with him. So right there, that's in Revelation. I couldn't find that earlier in the Bible. I'm sure it's probably mentioned somewhere in the Old Testament too. But that's just proof that a third, however many that is, I don't know how many God created. But there was a third of whatever. That's a lot of angels that were thinking they were better than God too. That's, everyone always just thinks of the devil, but there's a lot more with him.
All the demons, right? Yep.
And I don't know if Michael is stronger than all the rest of them. You see, like when you put it in that, because
I have that idea.
Yeah, because it kind of says right here they're not strong enough. So I don't know. So we're getting kind of into how are angels described in the Bible. Reminds me of old hymns. Seraphim is from Isaiah 6:1-7. And I'm going to kind of just read Isaiah's. It says Isaiah's commission. So verse 6, in the year that King, is that Uzziah died, I saw the Lord, high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim. So that type of angel. And this is where it gets interesting to me, because we always in our mind like, oh, they look like you and me. All right.
Yeah.
Each with 6 wings, with 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 wings they covered their feet, and with 2 they were flying, and they were calling out to one another, holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. So is this, people just think they don't, I mean, they look different than us, right?
Oh, yeah.
Most of
for
them
sure.
do. But go ahead, you can add something there.
Well, no, I have the same verses as seraphim. So like in the types of angels, I found the 3. I don't know if you maybe found a little more, but
I found 3 too.
Yeah, so it was like seraphim, which you're mentioning, which seemed like they're the ones that like I would are worshiping God.
Yes.
Like it just seems like what they're doing
all the time.
All the time. Like it
Never
doesn't seem like they're doing anything else. And
Right.
they do, yeah. The defining feature seems to be the 6 wings.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I'm sure you're going to get into the cherubim.
Yeah, go ahead. You can if you want.
Well, I don't have much. I just know they are, like, what I've found is they're usually guarding something. And then they show up, like, obviously in Genesis, which I think you mentioned already.
Yeah.
And then Ezekiel is where I saw.
Yes, Ezekiel 10.
Yeah.
But they were the ones guarding the entrance to Eden after Adam and
Yep.
Eve were kicked out, and they talked about having like a flaming sword, like constantly spin. I mean, it was some stuff, right?
Yeah.
Each of the cherubim had 4 faces. This is from Ezekiel. One face that was a cherub, the second face of a human being, the third face of a lion, and the fourth face of an eagle.
Sweet.
So what's up with that?
I assume it's like all like it like could spin into the right. Yeah.
Yeah. So if they need this one right now, they
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of how I pictured it. Obviously, my mind is limited.
Right, and that's another thing too. Like, I don't think our brains can grasp really what an angel is, because like we were talking about these Christmas movies, and these angels come down and they're all bright and shiny and they smile and all this. Well, the Bible describes them a little bit differently than that, right?
Yeah, I think too the Bible is pretty clear on, like, anytime someone presents themselves to someone, it's usually don't be afraid.
Right, fear not.
Yeah, fear not. Right, don't be afraid. And so, like, why would somebody be? Well, I assume they don't look like a normal person necessarily in those instances. Yeah.
Well, you could just feel their presence too, right?
Yep.
I bet you can just, because it's
power.
It says, "Fear not, the glory of the Lord shone around
holiness.
them." Like the shepherds are always afraid, like trembling. I believe it says they were trembling.
Yeah.
Like yeah. If something's come down from the sky,
yeah,
bigger than you, brighter than you, different than you,
Yeah.
with a sword or whatever, and like,
I assume their voice is better than mine.
probably so. Another one we have Archangel. The example is Michael in the Bible. He's found in Jude and then in Thessalonians. He's often portrayed or seen as a leader of the angels, and he plays a huge role, according to what I read, in the end times prophecy, like in Revelation. Like he's the one bringing the thunder and the end with Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. People always portray Jesus as, this silent little lamb or whatever, but this next time he's coming back, he's not coming back.
Yeah, next time he's coming back, he's coming back in the way they wanted him to the first time.
Correct.
Right?
More like Michael here. Like,
yeah. It's over.
Yeah.
I'm crushing. Yeah.
And that's something a lot of Christians that have been in church forever, that they don't understand that. I don't think they understand that next part of Jesus. Like, it's like, oh, he's,
Yeah, we had the sacrifice.
He loves everybody.
He came. He was the sacrificial lamb. The next time he comes, it's the ultimate judgment.
Yeah. I mean, the way they describe, we can get into that too, but
it's probably another whole podcast.
Yeah,
or 2 or 3 or 4. And we need somebody to help us.
I was going to say, have somebody else come and help us.
Yep.
And the other one was just angels. So it just says throughout the New and Old Testament, they act as messengers, protectors, and guides for God towards us humans. Some other roles, they could be warriors. Obviously, they're worshipers, like you were saying. The one is just continually like in the throne room in heaven. Like that's something I can't wrap my mind around that either. Just constantly, how holy God is. This never ends.
Yeah, I think that's something else we might not grasp is that God deserves and commands our worship.
Right.
And that when we meet him, when we are with him, and we're in the new earth, right? When we will be in worship, right? Like we won't help ourselves. We can't help it.
Right.
It's going to be amazing. And
Correct.
I think that's the other thing, like that. Yeah. Anyway, we could do a whole podcast on heaven too, probably. But
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like I think the like kind of what I had is the nature and purpose of angels. And you kind of already talked about it. They were created by God. They're distinct from humans.
Yes.
And the qualities they have are pretty. I mean, they seem like strength, intelligent, like just, and they praise God. And then the types I had, like you did, seraphim, cherubim, and archangels.
What was the fourth one you had? Do you have something else?
Nope, that's what I had.
I just put angels down.
Yeah, I guess like just good old generic angels.
Yeah.
And then kind of like you were talking about, it seems like they're messengers. They protect and guide.
Yep.
Worship and service.
Yep.
And then you mentioned like warriors. So I just a note of spiritual warfare. Like they are.
Yep.
I think we also don't talk about that a lot, but I think we have that's going on constantly.
It is.
Ephesians 6:12 speaks about the struggle not being against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces of evil.
Yep.
And it's hard, like once again, hard to grasp, but those are impacting us.
Yep.
And that's why sanctification and constantly being in the Word and being in step with God, and I think angels intervene there too.
I do.
Yep, I believe that.
I think a lot of people too. I've talked to people, and they're like, "Oh, when second coming, he's like, we're going to fight alongside Jesus." I'm like, I'm pretty sure the angels are taking care of that. And we're not.
We don't get flaming swords. As cool as that would be.
Yeah, pull it out of my mouth. No.
Yeah.
That's not me. That's not
lightsaber.
Wall. That's not my. I wasn't created for that.
No. Yeah, and I think too, man. And I didn't find this, and I would love to see this is, and maybe this is in my head. I can't remember like connection here, so I'm just gonna throw it out there since we're throwing out things. But the love God has for us is more than not maybe more, but we're just different in His eyes than angels, right? And the sacrifice of Jesus was for us to connect to God, and the angels are already connected to Him. Does that make sense? And so,
but they also have. We're gonna get into free will, but like some of them chose to leave too, which is crazy to me that they were in heaven, and they're like, nah. Satan's like, I can get a third of you to say this plan wasn't right.
Yeah, no. I think that's for sure. But I think like the idea that we were created, without. Well, we were created, then we fell, but then God still wants us to be connected to Him.
Yes, He does.
And went through the process and the promise that He made and sending Jesus and Jesus' sacrifice. And then to your point, someday we'll come back with thunder and judgment. But it's to me it's pretty interesting to think of it in those terms of like how much He loves us,
right?
Even though we're broken. We're like depicted from angels. It's either like you are or you aren't. Like it's no, Jesus didn't die for Satan.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like,
right. No.
Like that's already over.
Yep.
And that's who He's defeating. And so like, I think that's pretty interesting to think through is that, they don't have that.
Right.
And we do. So it's either like they are or not. They don't have this reconnection, I guess, so to speak. We are born sinful and have to be connected. It's just very interesting to talk through. Like that's a love, man. Anyway.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm rambling on about things I don't know and understand well, but
that's all right. Let's just read a couple of examples of angels interacting with humans in the Bible.
Yep.
And these aren't in order, but Luke 1, Gabriel appears to Zechariah about his wife giving birth to John the Baptist. And I like that one where Zechariah was like, "What?" Starts questioning. And he's like, "No, you lost your voice.
No more talking.
You're done.
No more talking.
You didn't believe."
Yeah.
Like that's just that they have some power too. That God has given them power.
Yeah, a lot of power, man, for sure.
Anything that an angel can do, or we can, it's all given by God.
Sure.
Then you have the Christmas story in Luke. Gabriel appears to Mary, talking about the birth of Jesus. Again in Luke 2, this is another one we just talked about. Angels appeared to the shepherds in the field, announcing the birth of Jesus and instructing them where to go and what to do. Let's see. Also in Luke, an angel, I'm not sure if this is Gabriel or not, spoke to Joseph and told him to take Mary and Jesus. King Herod's going on a killing rampage here. We need to flee to Egypt.
Yeah, I kind of always just assumed it was Gabriel, man.
Yeah.
Maybe, and you're right. I don't think it's specifically called out, is it?
And then I think an angel might have came back to him and tell him when it's safe to come back. I'm not for sure on that. Daniel. So if you get into Daniel, angels appeared to him often, helping with his dreams and to reveal the future. So that book of Daniel is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We could do a year's worth of podcasts on Daniel. Genesis. They warned Lot about Sodom and Gomorrah, and again, you're probably thinking this is Gabriel here too. If it is, he's been busy.
Yeah, I don't because he's like with them and goes to the angel was with them in the town, right? And like the men were trying to get him out of the what a crazy story, dude.
And I didn't read over all these stories.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I kind of always assumed it's Gabriel, the one hanging out.
It probably is. In 1 Kings, Elijah, angels were providing him food and encouragement during some hardships that he was going through.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Let's see.
I say kinda. That's real cool.
Yeah, that's real cool. In Genesis 3, we talked about angels and a flaming sword were guarding the Eden and the tree of life. And then the last one here, another one in Daniel, but the fiery furnace, right? We all know that story. But a lot of times it says angel of the Lord. Mm-hmm. And some people think this is Jesus in the fiery furnace. Other people don't. Because they couldn't describe him because they've never seen him, right? Mm-hmm. This Kayla and I were kind of talking about this. Like, I always thought it was Jesus. I don't know, growing up, they just told us it was on the flannel boards that it was Jesus in the fiery furnace. I never thought that. Really?
Yeah. I don't know why.
Because in the Old Testament, it describes an angel of the Lord several places, and I always thought it was just Jesus. Mm-hmm. Because he was there. He was there in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I could be completely wrong on that. It could have been just another angel protecting them in the fiery furnace, but Nebuchadnezzar saw it, and
yep. But no, there's no question there was someone in there.
Yeah, but it doesn't say Jesus. But of course, they didn't know who Jesus was yet because it's that's just me. I don't know. I could be completely wrong on that. The flannel boards from my old church could have been wrong. I don't know.
Flannel boards.
But that's just how I was raised. And Kayla and I were talking, and she thought the same thing. But yeah, angels are powerful created beings from God.
Yeah.
And like even in the throne room, let's see if I have any of this. Oh, do you have anything else to add while I'm reading over my notes here?
Nope, I'm pretty much tapped out on the subject.
Also in Genesis, angels come to Abraham, and he offers them water to wash their feet. Like they're having conversations with angels too. That's kind of
isn't that where we get the you might not know,
right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just read this one in Revelations. We can kind of wrap it up. They're just fascinating creations of God. And if you get into Revelations 4:6-9, also in front of the throne, there was what looked like a sea of glass, clear as crystal. In the center, around the throne, this is talking about God's throne, were 4 living creatures, and they were covered with eyes in front and back. The first living creature was like a lion, the second was like an ox, the third had a face like a man, and the fourth was like a flying eagle. And that kind of goes back to was it the cherubim I think we were talking about? Each of the 4 living creatures had 6 wings and was covered with eyes all around, even under its wings. Day and night they were singing and worshiping, Holy, Holy, Holy is the Lord God Almighty. And that just goes back to the point, like, that's all they're doing. That's all they're going to do for eternity.
Yeah.
Is worshiping.
Yeah.
But they don't look like us. I mean, they're covered with eyes. They have 4 heads.
Yeah, I think those would be
6 wings.
Probably the cherubim. And the seraphim are the ones that they talk about with 6 wings. But I don't know.
Verse 9 says, whenever the living creatures give glory, honor, and thanks to him who sits on the throne, who lives there forever and ever. So, I don't know. It's an interesting topic. I don't think we dove into it deep enough, but as I kind of like, oh, this would be a fun topic, and then I started reading. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, and then like I would say just like one little thing we could talk about is like how they are depicted in like at movies or books or things that are not biblical. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah,
and they're they're a human being doing things like I don't know or I was thinking of It's a Wonderful Life, just in that kind of idea, and the when the bell rings, angel gets her wings, that kind of stuff. And I think or Cupid, we've got Cupid floating around shooting people and making. Of course, that comes from like some mythology,
Greek mythology.
Yeah, but I just think there's a purpose for them, and in the Bible, it's pretty clear that they're there.
They're there, and they have a purpose for God.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of what I have.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
good stuff.
I got. So
next time we'll phone an expert to talk about angels.
We know an expert
on
angels.
I'm sure we could find somebody.
Yeah, but then I would be like, oh yeah, sure. I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah, whatever you say.
You have to spend years.
Yeah, whatever you say.
Yeah, I trust you.
Yep. But cool, man. I like it.
Yep.
We can sing "Angels We Have Heard" on high.
Yep. Hark the herald.
Yeah. Or that one.
And there's a hymn with cherubim and
seraphim.
Yeah. Because when I was reading
it's
those words, I'm like, cherubim and seraphim. Yeah.
Oh man, what is that?
Our parents were probably like, these two morons.
These morons don't remember hymns.
Yeah.
What is it?
That's probably in verse 3.
And then we'll end.
They're probably in verse 3.
No, it's not verse 3. It's not verse 3.
I think it's right out of the gate.
Yeah, I think so too.
But the awkward silence.
Yeah, this is radio silence. Holy, 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 dude.
That is,
holy,
of course.
Holy,
yeah,
holy.
Because that's what they're singing the whole time in the phone room.
That's it.
We should have known that.
Lord, yeah. Awesome. All right, man.
I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Adios.